Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I am Sarabjit Kaur and with me is Anuja Kumar with the Midday News. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi cautions against the selective interpretation of human rights and its use to diminish the image of country. Prime Minister addresses 28th NHRC Foundation Day program, says India is committed to human rights for ensuring all welfare schemes reach the last person. Prime Minister to participate in G20 Extraordinary Leaders Summit on Afghanistan virtually this evening. Centre asks states to utilize unallocated power of the central generating stations only to meet the requirement of their own consumers. India marches towards 100 crore mark COVID-19 vaccination coverage, over 95 crore 89 lakh jabs given till date. 5 terrorists killed in 2 separate encounters in South Kashmir's Shopian district. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to participate in 6th ministerial meeting of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures 2021 in Kazakhstan today. In IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders to face Delhi Capitals in the second qualifier tomorrow at Sharjah. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also help others get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India is committed to human rights, ensuring that all welfare schemes reach the last person in the row. He called for cent% saturation of the basic facilities to the citizens, which ensures the rights of the last person of the society. The Prime Minister was virtually addressing the 28th National Human Rights Commission NHRC Foundation Day program in New Delhi today. Mr. Modi said, at a time when the whole world was engulfed in the violence of World War I, India suggested the path of rights and non-violence to the world. Mr. Modi said that our movement for India's independence, our history, is a great source of inspiration for human rights.
भारत के लिए मानव अधिकारों की प्रेरणा का, मानव अधिकार के मूल्यों का बहुत बड़ा स्रोत आजादी के लिए हमारा आंदोलन, हमारा इतिहास है। हमने सदियों तक अपने अधिकारों के लिए संघर्ष किया। एक राष्ट्र के रूप में, एक समाज के रूप में अन्याय अत्याचार का प्रतिरोध किया। एक ऐसे समय में जब पूरी दुनिया विश्व युद्ध की हिंसा में झुलस रही थी, भारत ने पूरे विश्व को अधिकार और अहिंसा का मार्ग सुझाया। हमारे पूज्य बापू को देश ही नहीं बल्कि पूरा विश्व मानव अधिकारों, मानवीय मूल्यों के प्रतीक के रूप में देखता है.
Mr. Modi said, even after independence, India offered a new perspective and vision on equality and human rights to the world. The Prime Minister said that the government is enabling facilities for the marginalized in the society and facilitating them with their basic needs and improved livelihood. He added that the government has ensured that all its reforms and actions are designed keeping in mind every individual of the society without any discrimination.
आज देश सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास के मूल मंत्र पर चल रहा है. ये एक तरह से मानव अधिकार को सुनिश्चित करने की ही मूल भावना है. अगर सरकार कोई योजना शुरू करे और उसका लाभ कुछ को मिले, कुछ को ना मिले, तो अधिकार का विषय खड़ा होगा ही. और इसलिए हम हर योजना का लाभ सभी तक पहुंचे, इस लक्ष्य को लेकर चल रहे हैं. जब भेदभाव नहीं होता, जब पक्षपात नहीं होता, पारदर्शिता के साथ काम होता है, तो सामान्य मानवी के अधिकार भी सुनिश्चित होते हैं.
Mr. Modi pointed out that rights of the poor are imperative for strengthening the social ecosystem and empowering the poor to come out of the vicious circle of poverty. He also mentioned that access to basic facilities are not only helping the poor but bringing back their dignity. On ensuring rights of women, the Prime Minister said that today many sectors have been opened for women for employment and it is being ensured that they can work with security at workplaces round the clock. He said India has ensured 26 weeks of paid maternity leave, a feat that even many developed nations could not achieve. He also said that over the years in the past, the government has also taken steps to remove the injustice committed at different levels in different sections of the society. He said for decades, Muslim women had been demanding a law against triple talaq, and the government has given new rights to Muslim women by enacting a law against triple talaq. Recalling the inspired performance of the para-athletes in the recent Paralympics, the Prime Minister said that in recent years, laws have been enacted for the Divyangjan. They have been connected to new facilities and buildings are being constructed Divyang-friendly. The Prime Minister also cautioned against the selective interpretation of human rights and its use to diminish the image of the country. He said of late some people have started interpreting human rights from their own angle as per their selfish interests. Mr. Narendra Modi said, tendency to see infringement in one situation while not in a similar situation has damaged human rights a great deal. He also said that the biggest infringement of human rights takes place when they are seen from the prism of politics and political profit and loss. The Prime Minister said this selective behavior is equally damaging for democracy too.
The Centre has asked the states to utilize unallocated power of the Centre Generating Stations, CGS, only to meet the power requirement of their own consumers. It has been brought to the notice of Ministry of Power that some states are not supplying power to their consumers and imposing load shedding. At the same time, they are also selling power in the power exchange at high price. Ministry of Power in a statement said that as per the guidelines for allocation of power, 15% power from the central generating stations are kept under unallocated power, which is allocated by the central government and to the needy states to meet the requirement of power of the consumers. It said the responsibility to supply power to the consumers is of the distribution companies and they should first serve their consumers who have the right to receive 24/7 power. Thus, the distribution companies should not sell the power in the power exchange and starve their own consumers. The ministry added that the states have been requested to use the unallocated power of supplying electricity to the consumers of the state. In case of surplus power, the states have been requested to intimate to the Government of India so that this power can be reallocated to other needy states. The Ministry of Power said the maximum power demand of Delhi was 4,536 megawatt peak and 96.2 million units energy on the 10th of this month. It said as per the information received from Delhi Discoms, there was no outage on account of power shortage as the required amount of power was supplied to them.
The nation marches ahead towards 100 crore mark of administering vaccination. More than 95 crore 89 lakh COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered in the country so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. The Health Ministry said over 65 lakh 86,000 doses were administered yesterday. Talking to AIR News, Dr. Arvind Kumar, Medanta Hospital, has appealed to people to come forward to get vaccinated.
अगर हम इसको अपने आप को वैक्सीन से प्रोटेक्ट करें और कोविड एप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर को रिजिडली फॉलो करके उसके ट्रांसमिशन को रोकें तो जरूर हम नए वेरिएंट्स को डेवलप होने से जरूर रोक सकें.
India reported around 14,000 new cases during the last 24 hours, and this is the lowest in 224 days. India's active caseload stands at 2,14,900, and this is the lowest in 212 days. Active cases account for less than 1% of the total cases, and it is currently at 0.63%, the lowest since March last year. As India approaches 100 crore vaccination mark, we spoke to a beneficiary, Dr. K. Subhashekhar from Andhra Pradesh, Guntur.
I got vaccinated and protected myself from getting COVID. Vaccination is a safer way to protect ourselves and stop pandemic. Vaccine yourself and make others to vaccinate. We can only beat this pandemic if all people in India, if together we unite to protect vulnerable populations by ensuring vaccination and see that everyone should be vaccinated. I want to share my experience of getting vaccinated to dispel their fears about vaccination.
In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, 5 terrorists have been neutralized by security forces in 2 separate encounters in the South Kashmir's Shopian district today. Giving details, police said that 3 terrorists of Lashkar-e-Taiba were killed by security forces early this morning in an encounter that had broken out last evening at village Tulran in Imam Sahib area of South Kashmir's Shopian district. Inspector General of Police IGP Kashmir Vijay Kumar said that one slain terrorist identified as Mukhtar Shah of Ganderbal had shifted to Shopian after killing one street hawker Virendra Paswan of Bihar in the outskirts of Srinagar city a few days back. Incriminating materials including arms and ammunition were recovered from the possession of the slain terrorists. In another encounter in Firipora area of Shopian district today, 2 terrorists have been killed by security forces. The operation in the area was still underway when the last reports came in. Further details are awaited. The National Investigation Agency has conducted searches at 16 locations in Kashmir Valley in connection with Jammu and Kashmir terrorism conspiracy case. The case is pertaining to conspiracy for conducting violent terrorist acts in J&K and other major cities by the cadres of proscribed terrorist organizations Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen and their affiliates. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur has said that people who spread terror do not like the drive against terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, peace that prevailed and development that happened in last 2 years. So they carry out cowardly attacks and kill the civilians. Speaking to media in New Delhi on the sidelines of an event today, Mr. Thakur said people of Jammu and Kashmir have witnessed terrorism for years and they want to get rid of it. He said people of Jammu and Kashmir are against terrorists and terrorism. Mr. Thakur said they will not be lured into the attempts of creating divides in society as they want to take forward Jammu and Kashmir together.
समाज में बांटने का प्रयास जिस तरह से किया जा रहा है उसमें एक भावना ऐसी पैदा करने का उससे जम्मू कश्मीर के लोग उसमें नहीं आएंगे क्योंकि वहां पे एकजुटता एक परिवार के रूप में एक देश के रूप में वहां पर सब लोग इकट्ठे मिलकर जम्मू कश्मीर को आगे बढ़ाना चाहते हैं क्योंकि जम्मू कश्मीर ने वर्षों वर्षों तक आतंकवाद का साया देखा है उससे मुक्ति पाना चाहते हैं और जम्मू कश्मीर के लोग आतंकवाद के खिलाफ और आतंकवादियों के खिलाफ हैं.
The Delhi police has arrested a terrorist from Lakshmi Nagar area of the national capital and foiled a major terror plan in the city. The police said that the arrested terrorist is a Pakistani national who was staying on a fake identity on forged documents. Further investigation in the matter is underway. In view of the festive season, Delhi police has beefed up anti-terror alert and action across the city. In Odisha, 3 Maoists, including 2 women, were gunned down today in an exchange of fire in the Malkangiri district. The incident took place in the jungle under the Maithili police limits of the district when the joint team of Special Operation Group and the district voluntary force launched a combing operation in the area. Bodies of the 3 Maoists along with 2 guns have been recovered from the spot.
You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi cautions against the selective interpretation of human rights and its use to diminish the image of the country. Prime Minister addresses 28th NHRC Foundation Day program, says India is committed to human rights for ensuring all welfare schemes reach the last person. Prime Minister to participate in G20 Extraordinary Leaders Summit on Afghanistan virtually this evening. Centre asks states to utilize unallocated power of the central generating stations only to meet the requirement of their own consumers. India marches towards 100 crore mark COVID-19 vaccination coverage, over 95 crore 89 lakh jabs given till date. 5 terrorists killed in 2 separate encounters in South Kashmir's Shopian district. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar addresses the 6th ministerial meeting of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures CICA 2021 in Kazakhstan, and in IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders to face Delhi Capitals in the second qualifier tomorrow at Sharjah. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the Midday News. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will participate in the G20 Extraordinary Leaders Summit on Afghanistan in virtual format today. The summit has been convened by Italy, the current chair of the G20, that comprises 20 of the world's major economies. More details from our correspondent.
The agenda of the meeting will include a discussion on response to humanitarian needs and access to basic services and livelihood. Security and the fight against terrorism, mobility, migration and human rights will also be discussed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had earlier participated in the Csto Outreach Summit on Afghanistan. In his address, Mr. Modi had highlighted the problems caused by growing radicalization and extremism in the broader SCO region, which runs counter to the history of the region as a bastion of moderate and progressive cultures and values. The Prime Minister had noted that recent developments in Afghanistan could further exacerbate this trend towards extremism. Noting the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, he had reiterated India's solidarity with the Afghan people. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar participated in the meeting of G20 foreign ministers on Afghanistan on the margins of the UN General Assembly in New York. The G20 is an important platform to help build international consensus and facilitate a coordinated approach between multilateral organizations, including the UN and its agencies, and global and regional actors to address the worsening humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Anupam Mishra, AR News, Delhi.
Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports Anurag Thakur today led a cleanliness drive at and around the premises of Humayun Tomb along with volunteers in New Delhi. It was organized as part of Pan-India month-long cleanliness campaign of Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports of collecting and removing garbage, mainly plastics. The drive has been taken up to mark Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Thakur said that Clean India campaign aims to fulfill the dream of the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. Through this campaign, we are not only organizing Clean India Drive, but also generating awareness about clean and healthy surroundings.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar addressed the 6th ministerial meeting of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures CICA 2021 in Nur Sultan, Kazakhstan. In his address, Mr. Jaishankar said that India's internationalism, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, drives the vaccine Maitri of India. In a series of tweets, he said, COVID response has brought out the limitations of current multilateralism. Mr. Jaishankar said, need for reformed multilateralism is strong. He dwelt on sustainable development, which requires a sustainable lifestyle. About terrorism, the minister said that cross-border terrorism is not a statecraft. It is simply another form of terrorism. Mr. Jaishankar said, the connectivity must respect the most basic principle of international relations, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. On the COVID situation, Mr. Jaishankar said, post-pandemic world requires resilient and reliable supply chains, greater trust and transparency, and additional engines of growth. The External Affairs Minister highlighted that Afghanistan developments have generated understandable concern. In a tweet, Mr. Jaishankar said, voice of CICA can be a positive factor in shaping a global response. The progress of CICA adds to the case for reformed multilateralism.
As our nation celebrates the 75th year of independence, a series of events are being organized by the government as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. To commemorate the occasion as a Janotsav, All India Radio News brings its listeners a special quiz on India's freedom movement and its glorious history. The quiz is being conducted every Monday and Tuesday in the morning news since 16th of August and will continue till 15th August 2022. India Post has joined hands as the logistics partner with All India Radio News for the Amrit Mahotsav quiz. Listeners can send their responses to the question over WhatsApp on 882-654-6262 or through email on amritmahotsavquiz@prasarbharati.gov.in.
Let's listen to our special program Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a Nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
In today's episode, we are paying our tributes to freedom fighter, author, thinker and political leader Ram Manohar Lohia, who left us on 12th October in 1967. Lohia was born on 23rd of March 1910 at Akbarpur in the then Faizabad district of Uttar Pradesh.
His father was a great follower of Mahatma Gandhi, and at an early age itself, Ram Manohar leaned towards Gandhian philosophy and turned a satyagrahi at the age of 10. During school days, Lohia launched a campaign against textbooks which described Shivaji as a bandit king and later joined protest against Simon Commission.
After completing graduation from Calcutta University, Lohia went to Europe for further studies. While in Europe, Lohia attended the League of Nations Assembly in Geneva. India was represented by the Maharaja of Bikaner, a well-known favourite of the British Raj.
Lohia took exception to this and launched a protest from the visitors' gallery. He sent several letters to editors of newspapers and magazines to clarify the reason for his protest. The whole incident made Lohia a recognized figure in India overnight.
Lohia helped organize the Association of European Indians and became the secretary of the club. The main focus of the organization was to preserve and expand the Indian nationalism outside India. Lohia wrote his PhD thesis paper on the topic of salt satyagraha, focusing on Gandhiji's socio-economic theory.
Lohia was attracted to socialism and helped lay the foundation of Congress Socialist Party in 1934. Lohia was arrested and sentenced to 2 years in prison when he wrote the article Satyagraha Now in Gandhiji's newspaper Harijan on June 1st, 1940. He was mentally tortured and interrogated by his jailers, but in December 1941 he was released along with other leaders by British authorities in a desperate attempt to destabilize India internally.
During the Quit India movement in 1942, when prominent leaders were jailed, Lohia carried out operations from underground. Lohia, along with freedom fighter Usha Mehta, broadcast messages in Bombay for 3 whole months from a secret radio station called Congress Radio before detection. He revived the movement in Kolkata and later fled to Nepal to evade the British. However, he was captured in May 1944. Lohia was taken to a prison in Lahore, but under Gandhiji's pressure, he was released.
As India's tryst with freedom neared, Hindu-Muslim strife increased. Lohia strongly opposed partitioning India in his speeches and writings. He appealed to communities in riot-torn regions to stay united, ignore the violence surrounding them, and stick to Gandhiji's ideals of non-violence.
Lohia comforted the Mahatma on partition issue and remained beside Gandhiji as a son would remain beside a father in the hour of crisis in the aftermath of independence.
Dr. Lohia was the first to introduce the idea of unification of some 650 Indian princely states together to form larger states, an idea which was later successfully executed by Sardar Patel, first Home Minister of India. After independence, Lohia made his indelible mark in democratic India as a great thinker and parliamentarian and a fighter for the cause of minorities, lower classes and women.
During his last few years, besides politics, he spent hours talking to thousands of young adults on topics ranging from Indian literature, politics and art. Lohia died on October the 12th, 1967 in New Delhi. He left behind no property or bank balance but prudent contemplations.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
भारत के स्वतंत्रता संग्राम में अनगिनत स्वतंत्रता सेनानियों ने अपने प्राणों की आहुति दी। कुछ इतिहास में अमर हो गए और कई गुमनाम। आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के अंतर्गत 75 कड़ियों की श्रृंखला में हम उन वीरांगनाओं की बात करेंगे जिनका योगदान कभी भुलाया नहीं जा सकता। प्रत्येक मंगलवार परिक्रमा में सुनिए अपराजिता, देश की वीरांगनाओं को आकाशवाणी का सादर नमन।
In today's episode of Aparajita, we will bring you the saga of Durga Bhavi.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu today paid tributes to socialist and iconic freedom fighter Ram Manohar Lohia on his death anniversary. In a tweet, Mr. Naidu said, Ram Manohar Lohia ji was a passionate nationalist who cared deeply for India's unity and integrity. The Vice President said his thoughts and life continue to inspire people in striving to create an egalitarian society free of all inequities. In IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders will now face Delhi Capitals in the second qualifier tomorrow evening at Sharjah. Delhi Capitals toppers in the league stage lost to Chennai Super Kings in the qualifier 1. The winners qualifier 2 will play the final against Chennai Super Kings on Friday at Dubai. CSK has already qualified for their 9th IPL final. In the eliminator match at Sharjah last night, Kolkata Knight Riders beat Royal Challengers Bangalore by 4 wickets to reach the qualifier 2. Now let us take a look at the weather update for today. National capital Delhi is likely to have mainly clear sky. The minimum temperature was 23 degrees Celsius, while maximum is expected to be 36 degrees. Mumbai will have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. It recorded a minimum temperature of 26 degrees Celsius, while maximum is expected to be 33 degrees. Chennai is expected to experience thunderstorm with rain. Lower limit of temperature was 26 degrees Celsius, while upper limit is expected to be nearly 33 degrees. Kolkata will have generally cloudy, partly cloudy sky. Srinagar will have partly cloudy sky. Jammu will also have mainly clear sky. The minimum temperature was 20 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 34 degrees. Gilgit will have generally cloudy sky with temperature hovering between 11 and 23 degrees Celsius.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi cautions against the selective interpretation of human rights and its use to diminish the image of the country. Prime Minister addresses 28th NHRC Foundation Day program, says India is committed to human rights for ensuring all welfare schemes reach the last person. Prime Minister to participate in G20 Extraordinary Leaders Summit on Afghanistan virtually this evening. Centre asks states to utilize unallocated power of the central generating stations only to meet the requirement of their own consumers. India marches towards 100 crore mark COVID-19 vaccination coverage, over 95 crore 89 lakh jabs given till date. 5 terrorists killed in 2 separate encounters in South Kashmir's Shopian district. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar addresses the 6th ministerial meeting of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures CICA 2021 in Kazakhstan. In IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders to face Delhi Capitals in the second qualifier tomorrow at Sharjah. And with that, we end the Midday News.